Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Demystifying Website Building for West Virginia Artists and Creatives webinar. My name is Emma Pepper. I am the Program Director for the Tamarack Foundation for the Arts. I am joined here on the video by Megan Bullock and Robbie Sherrard of Mesh Design and Development. The Tamarack Foundation works to build the creative economy of West Virginia by helping artist entrepreneurs. We work with artists across the state, whether or not they are juried into the Tamarack retail facility in Beckley. We would like to thank the Benedum Foundation for a generous grant that enables us to offer this training for free today. This webinar is part of our new Tamarack Foundation U programming. As part of Tamarack Foundation U, we picked one business training topic to focus on for 3 months. We write posts for our Tamarack Foundation blog. We add new articles and videos to our resource library found on our website. We host webinars just like this one and more activities all related to this one topic. All of our efforts are summarized monthly in our Tamarack Foundation U dispatch email. If you're not already on the list to receive this email, you will be added as part of your sign up for this webinar today. So the first Tamarack Foundation U topic that we're exploring is the A to Z of websites. And we're excited to have Megan and Robbie of Mesh Design Development with us today to lead this webinar on the fundamentals of website building. As part of their presentation today, Megan will cover topics such as elements of good website design, ideas for content gathering, an overview of a couple of recommended website platforms for artists and creatives. We're also new announcement. Megan and Robbie will touch on 3 options of online platforms to use to build a website. And we will be offering 2 follow-up webinars that will dive deeper into instructions on how to build a website using 2 of these platforms. So following this webinar, you'll receive an email with an option to vote on which of the 2 of the 3 platforms presented here today that we will include in these upcoming webinars. So please keep an eye on your email to let us know your thoughts. Also, as part of the presentation today, we'll be mentioning a few website addresses, and we'll have these website addresses in that follow-up email as well. So don't feel like you need to scramble in writing notes. If you have questions or comments at any time during the presentation, you may submit them by using the box labeled chat at the bottom of the screen. Type in your question or comment where it says write a message and then click the send button. Please note that anything you type into this chat box will be available to everyone attending the webinar. So you may not want to share personal details on there. Also at the end of the presentation today will leave time for Q&A, so feel free to submit your questions throughout the presentation and then we will definitely address them at the end. So if you have any technical issues today, first try to just close this browser window that you're seeing the webinar through, go back to that original email, click join again and attempt to reconnect to the webinar. If this doesn't work, we will have a recording of this webinar today on our website. And you can check in with me at emma@tamarackfoundation.org if you have any personal questions. You want to definitely get a link to that webinar, etc. Don't hesitate to contact me personally. So without further ado, let's introduce our lead presenter, Megan Bullock, co-founder of Mesh Design and Development. Mesh is a graphic design and web development studio with offices in Charleston, West Virginia, and Brooklyn, New York. As part of her work at Mesh, Megan designs communication systems in both digital and physical formats. Megan has worked internationally in design, public art, and community development from Edinburgh to India to Argentina. She gives talks and teaches workshops on design impact at forums like the UN Habitat World Urban Forum, the University of Hartford, and farmers market conferences throughout West Virginia. Megan serves as a mentor for UPenn's Social Entrepreneurship Impact House and is an active member of the Tamarack Foundation's Marketing Committee. Megan's work has been recognized by Print Magazine and AIGA Pittsburgh. Welcome, Megan, and welcome to Robbie, and thank you for leading this webinar for us today.
Cool, awesome. Thanks for having us, Emma, and thanks everyone for joining. I'm really excited to talk to you about portfolio websites and websites for creatives today. I am used to giving talks where I can hear feedback from people, so this is going to be new to me, and we're just looking at our screen right now. So you have the ability to ask questions and do a Q&A at the end. Great, so we're going to keep those minimized.
Okay.
So today we're going to be talking to you about portfolio websites. In all of the work that we do, we always start with asking questions. So we ask what we're doing, where it's happening, why it's happening, when it's going to happen, and how it's going to happen. So we're going to try and answer those questions for you today about making your website. So the first thing I want to address is where. So the internet is a big, crazy place. I've heard it compared to the Wild West before, that it's still being developed, and it's always changing and evolving, and it's what we make of it. And so the information that we're going to share with you today could change in a year's time because technology is always being updated. The technology that we use and the software that we use now is not the same as what we were using 5 years ago. But we are going to share as much relevant information with you as possible. So that is where we are, the context that we're talking about. And what we're talking about today is your own dedicated website. So I know that a lot of people tend to use social media as their platform, their main platform to talk about their work. But it is very important to have your own dedicated website that you can push back all of your social media talk and the buzz that you're building about your work, that you can push users or people back, visitors back to your website to actually be visiting your website and looking at your work on there. So a Tumblr, a Facebook page, a Twitter account, all of those things are important, but they should all be tools that are pushing back to your main dedicated website. Just like you have a physical portfolio of your work, if you're a professional artist or creative, you should also have a digital portfolio of your work. So I'm sharing with you right now our Mesh Design Studio website. Today I'm going to use this as an example for you. So our site is on WordPress, and we have pictures of our work, and then we have our portfolio. So we are a graphic design company and a web development company, so the look of our site is going to be different than yours, but the way a good website works is there are consistencies. So just to get our terminology straight, every website has a URL. This is your URL up here. So ours is meshfresh.com. That's also your domain, right? Mm-hmm. And every website has some type of logo or identity mark in it. So it can be in the top left here. Sometimes it's in the center. It's always good that, that's one of the first things that you see. And then you have your navigation. And our navigation is stacked. We have 3 rows. Sometimes you see them straight across the page. Sometimes they can be at the bottom of the page, or they can be up vertically on the left side of the page. But this navigation is how you navigate through all of the content on your site.
So one thing I want to note about domain is the .com extension. So a lot of people think that they need to have their business name .com, and nowadays there's actually a lot of different extensions you can use, like .co or .info, and it doesn't make any difference with your SEO or people visiting your website. It's just a different way to have a URL.
Yeah, and Robbie's going to talk to you a little bit more about getting a URL later if you don't already have one, and how to manage that. So I'm going to talk about web design for a second. It is very important to have a clean layout and a clean design in a portfolio website that lets your work speak first, not the design of your website. So in our case, we're graphic designers, so we have these black blocks and a little bit more graphics on our site, but it's very important that you have a layout with, we use a lot of white space, and we recommend using white space whenever possible to let the actual work come forward. Show you a few examples here. So we consider this our portfolio of work, and you have your navigation and your logo at the top, and then you have a lot of white space on the left and right, and the image of the actual work is the most important thing on the page. So you don't need a lot of additional graphics or colors, or you want to steer clear of over-designing your site so that your work comes to the forefront. The second thing to consider is intuitive usability. So you want your site to be very usable. Every page of our site or every section of our site is accessible up here in our navigation. When you go into our work, you can scroll down and you can very quickly see a lot of different projects that we're working on. So this gives you an overview. And then you can also filter, so you can look at branding projects we've done, print design, web design projects. So everything is clickable, it's clear, and it's usable.
And that's, I know that could seem like a daunting task to figure out how to organize all your content. And one tactic for figuring all that out is a lot of times just looking at other websites, seeing how they're designed, how they organize their content. And there are kind of standards on the web for how people do these things. And so sticking as close to those standards is a pretty good idea.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk to you about curating your content here in a little bit. So we can dive into that more. So clean layout and clean design that lets your work come forward. Intuitive usability. The third thing that we consider very important is concise language. So you do want a little bit of language or text that supports your work and explains it, but you don't need too much. So here we have our client's name, Pamela Hanson Photography, and then you see that we did a website for her. When you go into this project, we actually just only have that information. Let's go into the farmers market project here. So we have a title of the work. We have images of the work. Images are the most important thing. And then we have a small one-paragraph write-up. Even this is wordy. It doesn't even need to be this long. Having 1 to 2 sentences, and then maybe 1 to 2 pieces of information about the project. So if you're a multimedia artist, you might want to have the medium that you've worked in here. You might want to have a client name if you've done it for a client. You might want to have the size of your piece of work. So basic pieces of information that the user can, we call them users, that the visitor of your website can quickly grasp about your work is really important. You want it to be able to be read in just a few minutes. So the last thing that I want to point out is really important is to have a responsive website. So right now we're looking at this website here on a very large Macintosh screen. If I were to look at it on a desktop, you see that the image here starts to respond and shrink down. So if I'm looking at this on a laptop, then and my browser screen is smaller, then you would still see the full image. And if you resize it even smaller, if we were looking at it on tablets, notice that we can still see our navigation at this size, and as you scroll down the page, the images have resized and the text has resized. So this is all responded to the size, and therefore it will also respond to the device. So here at a mobile size, if we were looking at this page on a phone, all of the content has responded down to this much smaller size, so you can still read it, and our menu has collapsed. So you can actually click menu, and we have a different style menu. So this is called responsive design, and every website that is made now should be responsive. Every website that we make is responsive, and most themes, we're going to go over themes with you today, are responsive. So those are just some quick top-level tips to look for in good web design. The next thing I want to explain to you about a website is a front end and a back end. So almost every website has a front end and a back end if it's on a content management system. So the front end here is what the user is seeing, what the visitor is seeing when they come to your domain, all the pages and content that you have. And the way that we manage this content and edit it and update it is on our content management system. So our mesh site is made on WordPress. I have my username and password here, logging in, and this is actually where we edit all of our content. This is a WordPress content management system, or shorthand, we call it a CMS. And I can go into any of these pages. I can go into work here. This is the portfolio that we were just looking at of our work. So, let's see, we can go into people, and this is where we can update an overview of our studio, and then we can add different people in here. So this is a whole other conversation, but we just want to show you that this exists, and this is how you edit content on a front end of your website. So I was also going to talk to you about why you need a website, but I think that everybody here today, if you're in this webinar, you understand why you need a website and why it's important. It is a digital portfolio for you if you're a professional artist, and it also allows you to reach a much your work. So a physical portfolio only reaches physical boundaries, but a digital portfolio, you can share your work with people across the world. So I think that everyone here probably knows that. So that is 101 on websites and what they are. The second part of our conversation today is how. We want to talk to you about how you can make your own website, or how you can have a website up on the internet of all of your work. So there's 3 different options that we see. The first option is learning to code and programming and designing your own website, which is technically low cost, but a huge time investment for you and probably something that you don't want to do. The second option is to hire a design and development firm to make your website for you. So this is a lower time investment for you, but it's a big monetary investment. You're going to start around $5,000 in an investment for a very basic portfolio website if you're going to work with a professional. The third option, which we're going to focus on today, is finding a pre-existing theme online and customizing it with your own content. Platforms that we are going to recommend today. WordPress is one of them, and I just showed you the back end of WordPress that the mesh site is built on. Squarespace is a second option that we're going to go through with you, and Shopify is a third option, which is an e-commerce platform or a platform where you can actually sell your work. With any of these options, whether you decide that you want to teach yourself how to program, you decide that you want to hire a professional firm, or you decide that you want to use one of the themes that we're going to recommend today, the first thing that you need to consider is gathering your content. So I'm going to go back to our mesh site here. One of the most time-consuming parts of creating a website for any of our clients or anyone that's ever made a website is selecting all of your content. So your content is all of the images and text that you upload on your website. You have all of your work. So we've pulled out 5 or 6 projects that are featured projects that we've curated on the homepage of our site. And then of work, which is about, I think, around 20 different projects that we've worked on. On the third level, we have the posters and more one-off projects that we also like to share with people. So there's 3 different levels that we've curated on our site of our work. We've done hundreds of projects with hundreds of clients over the past 7 or 8 years, but we have selected these projects to share with people because they're projects that we're excited about and proud of, but they're also projects that represent our work and represent the type of work that we want to do more of. So one of the hardest things that you're going to have to do in planning for your website is to decide what projects or what work you want to feature on your site. You don't need to feature it all. So you need to make a curated list of those pieces, and then you need to start to develop content around them that will represent that piece of work online. So what we would recommend is picking 5 to 15 pieces of your work that you think speak the best about what you do, that represent you well, and that display what you would like to do more of or be hired to do. When you're curating your work, you want to think about how to bundle the different projects or the different pieces into groups as well. So the way that we bundle our branding, print design, and social media. So we have to view all of our web development work, all of our web design work, all of our print design work. And this is how we bundle our work. If you're a ceramicist, you may want to bundle your work into functional objects and sculptural objects. If you're a painter, you may have different series of work that you would like to group separately. If you're a carpenter, you may want to show furniture, you may want to show cabinetry or design build projects, and maybe you do sculptural carpentry or you design instruments. So these are different ways to bundle your projects, and you could have multiple projects or multiple pieces of work within that content. So making a list of the 5 to 15 things that you want to feature is the first step in the design of your site. The second thing for a portfolio site is, the second most important thing is to consider your images. So I know that there are a few resources on the Tamarack Foundation's resource platform that talk about taking images, taking photographs. Things that I'd like to point out to consider. On the web, it's really great to have a horizontal format. Vertical formats work, but the nature of our browser screen, horizontal images lend themselves well. So you'll notice a lot of our images are in horizontal format. You want to think about lighting and context and have consistency between those images online. So all of our websites are in this style of computer browser here with this light gray background and this mock-up background. All of our print work is photographed on different colored grounds with pretty much the same lighting throughout. I'll just show you the Farmers Market Association. So this is actually also photographed on the light gray. Agenda project is photographed on a bright orange, but you notice that the styling and the lighting of the photography are very similar. So this is how we've chosen to photograph our work. You may choose that you want to use studio shots like this to represent your work, or you may choose to photograph your work in context. So maybe you're a furniture designer, and instead of having a studio shot where artificially lit and you have a photographer shooting it, you may instead want to show that piece of furniture in context at a table or being used by the people that you've designed it for. So if that's important to your work, then you want that to be consistent through all of your photography. You also can pair studio work with contextual photography as well. You just want to be considerate of how you're shooting those images and preparing them for your website. The last thing I want to talk about is just file size. So you want your images to be as high resolution as possible. We keep ours 16 to 2200 pixels wide so that they work on very large desktops like this. And as Retina display is becoming more prominent on phones, the quality of the image needs to be higher. I'm not exactly how to explain that.
Yeah, there's more pixels on phones now. So the more pixels that you have in your image, the clearer they're going to be.
So you want to if you keep your images as high resolution as possible, then a lot of the themes that we're going to recommend in the content management system, it will resize them down. Mm-hmm. But it's better to have larger, higher quality, higher resolution images that can be saved down than to have lower quality, smaller images because you can't blow them up with pixels. The last thing to think about with your work, when you have an image for each piece, is the text that I talked about earlier. So having a title and a little bit of descriptive text, you don't even need to have a sentence or a paragraph like this, but just having a few consistent elements of information for each piece of work in a list, in a Google document or in a Word document that describes your images that will eventually be uploaded on your site is a perfect way to approach a design and development firm if you want to work with them, or to have prepared if you're making your own site. So the content we talked about is having 5 to 15 projects, having 1 to 3 images of each project or each piece of work, and having some descriptive text. In addition to that, you want to have a bio, and a lot of you probably have a resume. But having a bio for web should be a short paragraph that just describes you and your work. And so if you're a more serious person, you want that to be written more seriously and have your academic background and all of the things that you've done. You can write it that way, or you can write it in a more friendly tone that describes your more of an artist statement, the work that you love to do and why you do what you do. Both of those are powerful. We like to recommend having a bit of the more qualitative information in the bio that talks about why you do what you do, and then having maybe a download available of your resume to talk about some of the experiences that you have, experiences in education that you might want to share. So I think that's it about content. The last thing to consider is you want to ask yourself, what do you actually want visitors of your site to do? So we call this your call to action. Do you want them to say hello? Do you want them to apply for a job with you? Do you want them to buy some of your work? Do you want them to send you an email to have you show at their next gallery exhibit? So you want to be very explicit with what your call to action is, and that can be could be in your bio, or that could be in a contact page on your site that tells people what different things that you're available. Maybe you want to do some teaching, so make it known on your website that you're available for teaching engagements or speaking engagements, or to show your work at galleries or for commissions. You want to be very specific about what you're available for and how people can get in touch with you. So I think that that's it about content. Anything? Sure. All right. No matter which direction you go with the 3 options, you want to, this is the first step to have all of this content considered and ready to go. It's something that design studios can help you with, but ultimately it's your work, and the way that you're representing it is something that you need to think through. So number 3 that we talked about earlier, the third option, to having your portfolio website is use a pre-existing theme online. In my mind, this is a medium time investment and a lower cost than working with a design firm right away. So as I mentioned, we have 3 platforms that we would like to recommend to you today: WordPress, Squarespace, and Shopify. So we're going to start off by giving you some information about WordPress. We've shown you the back end already. I guess we can just get into themes.
Yep.
Do you want to explain what a theme is?
Yeah, so a theme is basically a pre-designed website that you can apply to your WordPress site. So let me show you here. What you do is you actually do an install of WordPress, so it's CMS. And that's like all the base functionality of like pages and blog posts and all the different stuff that is actually on the site. But then what you can do is you can basically apply one of these themes which skins the site with like different fonts, different colors, however you want the site to look basically. And so you can actually go on, we always recommend ThemeForest, themeforest.net. And on there they just have all kinds of different themes that you can choose from, and you basically buy those, you install it on your WordPress site, and then your site looks exactly like that. So did you have some examples that you want to show?
So you can go to ThemeForest, and we just search your portfolio website. Oops, sorry, wrong computer. And these sites have come up here. All of these themes are not that great. So the Square Portfolio website is a little bit dated. This Agatha photo studio is a little bit dated. It has like a black background. But we have some themes that we'd like to recommend to you today. This theme is called Concept. It is a grid, and right now these are design pieces, but you could have your images of work here. And when you slide over each piece, then a piece of information comes up that describes the piece. When you click into it, you have your image, and then you have descriptive text underneath it and the ability to have other images in here. So this is what this would look like if you went to ThemeForest and looked up Concept. Get this page here, a portfolio theme for creative people. There is a one-time initial cost for a WordPress theme. It's a one-time upfront cost. So the themes range from $0 to I think $60 or $70 is probably the highest that you'll go.
Yeah, so there's a lot of free WordPress themes that you can choose from. They tend to be a little bit dated, but they work. You can you can search through them and you can find some pretty good themes in there. But then you can also buy these pre-built themes. They're normally $49, $59.
Okay, and we would recommend investing a little bit in this theme. It's hard to find a free, really great theme. So this Concept theme is $59. You see that there. Here's how you actually buy it. You can just add it to cart. And the way that we were looking at it here, we just clicked Live Preview. And so this is showing us what the site can look like. It has this collapsed navigation. And so what you want to think about when you're looking at a theme is updating it with your own information. So this will have your own content, your own images, your own text. And this navigation will be customizable as well. So you see, if you go to the navigation in a lot of themes, it shows you some of the flexibility of it. So let's look at alternative source here. So this is actually a different layout, and it also has a black transparent hover over it rather than that white slide that we looked at earlier. So this is another option within this theme. Go back. Sorry. Impressive half. So this is another within this theme. So each theme has different variations in it as well. So you should click around with the navigation and see if there's a layout that you think works for you. So concept is one theme that we're recommending that you check out. Stock column is also a pretty cool theme that you can get at ThemeForest. It is interesting.
Oh, they do hosting.
Yeah, so Robbie's going to talk to you about hosting and domain in a second. And with WordPress, you'll have this initial, here's the theme only. So you'll have this initial cost of your theme, and then you'll also need to pay for your domain and hosting. So if you already have a website, you're probably paying for your domain and hosting. Domain is about $12 a year, and that is your URL. So we pay about $12 a year for MeshFresh to own meshfresh.com. And hosting is, how do you explain hosting?
The hosting is like where all of your website files and stuff are actually stored. So like the way I think about it is like meshfresh.com is like our address of our house, and then the actual house is like all of the website. All the stuff that, where WordPress sits, where all the themes are going to go, plugins, whatever else you have. And then that you have to buy on a usually a monthly or yearly recurring basis. And it can be anywhere from like $4 a month up to maybe $12 a month.
So WordPress costs are your domain and hosting, and then the one-time cost of your theme.
Yep.
So concept is the first thing we recommended, and then we also really love stock column. So it actually has, we clicked into the theme here, and these are what are called demos. There are a lot of different layouts under stock column, which is pretty cool. So you can view any of these within this theme. Here is a grid that's kind of similar to concept here called Tove. Here is a portfolio site that I'm going to click into. Any of these here. This one's also very nice. I don't know how to say it though. And it has a white bar on the left here with a very simple navigation. So I'm going to go down to Eva here. So this is a very clean, simple layout, and it has text and image on your home page. So if you wanted to have studio photography and a full image, this would be a really lovely way to go. This also has a collapsed navigation. We saw that with Concept as well. This one's vertical. And these collapsed navigations are becoming more and more popular as people are using their phone and tablet. They used to just be used on phone and tablet, and now people are using them also on desktop as well.
Yeah, when selecting a theme, one good thing to try is, you want to hit the browser window a little bit, is to try doing this just to see what it looks like on a phone, so that you know how when people go to it on mobile, what they're going to be seeing and how it's going to look. So this one actually kind of changes format a little bit. Are you still on the same page?
Yeah.
Yeah, so instead of doing that, let's
see, actually, yeah. Oh, cool.
So it kind of changes the layout a little bit, depending on whether you're on desktop or mobile.
I'm going to go back to stock column. That same theme that you can purchase, you could use this layout instead, with a white bar and a framed image. This is a little bit more conventional, but you have your navigation always viewable on the left here. So both of these are lovely and work well. It just depends on what you want. I'm going to also show you Louisa. This is a little bit more fashion-forward theme. It also has the hover, but it's using a serif instead of a sans serif, and it has this text in the center of the screen that overlaps on top of the images. So this is not for everybody, but we think it's a pretty cool option. It's really beautifully designed. It's called Louisa. This one is, the agency is actually only $17, and it is a little bit more, looks a little bit more like a business. But if you're running a creative business, this could be a good way to go. Alpha, $49. And Alpha's pretty cool because your mouse turns into your navigational arrow here as you're moving left and right. So, what a concept. It has the collapsed navigation as well, and lots of different options within here. And the last theme I just want to share with you is Cadavra. So Cadavra also has a lot of the different options or demos within this theme that are pretty cool. So if we go to this photography site, Cadavra Photography, maybe, there we go. So this has a full screen image. It has your top navigation here. And then it looks like, yeah, we can scroll down and see more images of photography. And this has a large splitter in it, so you could have your contact information about us down here. This is a little bit more like a business than a traditional portfolio site, which may be the way that you're going. So those are just a few themes that I wanted to share with you on WordPress. We love WordPress because it is more customizable for designers and developers. We don't often use themes like this. We actually custom code most of our sites. But this is a great way to get started. And one of the benefits of WordPress is that if you would like to get started on WordPress and learn the back end, it's a great skill to have, and you'll know how to use WordPress if you'd like to work with a designer development studio in the future, because many studios work on WordPress and know it well. It's very customizable. You can add to it over time. And anything else?
Yeah, it's just a good CMS to use. It's pretty much the standard CMS that most large sites use now. So it's a good option.
Cool. So I know I think we have about 15 minutes left, and I want to leave time for Q&A. Platforms that we would like to share with you as well today. So WordPress is awesome. Squarespace is also a really awesome platform, and it's been really stepping up its game in the last 2 or so years, and it has some really awesome themes on it. We don't work with Squarespace as much because it is not very customizable, so what you see here is pretty much what you get. Let's go to the live preview.
Yeah, Squarespace is good for getting a website up and running really quickly. I mean, you could just sign up and then apply one of their website templates, and then you're just up and running. They pretty much handle it all for you. It's a little bit more expensive in the long term. I mean, it's $12 a month for indefinite. And then, yeah, 18, I guess, if you want some other features. But it's a perfectly good option to get up and running quickly, especially if you don't have any specific design needs or anything that you want customized.
Yeah, so I'm not even going to run through the Squarespace themes because they're all pretty beautiful, and that's something that you guys can explore in your own time. If you go to squarespace.com/websites, and I think you can go directly to portfolio themes, and you can browse through these different themes that they offer here. There's a lot of...
Yeah, and then also on the back end, once you get started, you get your site up and running, the back end is a little bit more drag and drop than WordPress. WordPress might have a larger learning curve. I think that Squarespace, they make it pretty simple here, Megan. This is actually the back end of a Squarespace site. So they try to make it as visual as possible, like you're editing on the actual page and how it's like when you're editing content, that's how it's going to actually show up on the front end of the website. So they try to make that front end and back end
a little bit more seamless.
Yep.
Yeah. So Squarespace is not very customizable if you wanted to work with a design and development studio in the future to manage your work. So when people come to us with Squarespace sites, we generally rebuild their site on WordPress. If you want something quick and you're okay with the $12 a month, this is a really great solution to get a site up and running if you have your content ready and you're ready to start uploading it. As you see here, it's fairly user-friendly for someone that doesn't know a lot about the web, which is pretty cool. And the other nice thing about Squarespace is that it includes your domain and hosting within this $12 a month. So with WordPress, you have to buy your domain and hosting on a site like GoDaddy, and then you have to buy your theme on a site like ThemeForest, and then you have to combine them together. Squarespace it's all here. It's a one-stop shop, and everything is available for you to get started pretty immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So Robbie's going to talk a little bit about how just the steps that you want to be considering setting up your website. But the last platform that I'd like to share with you is Shopify. So Shopify is a great platform for e-commerce work, for selling your products. So I think that Squarespace and WordPress do have e-commerce plugins or options now, but we think if you're going to run an online shop, we really prefer Shopify. Shopify's been doing e-commerce sites for a really long time. They do it really well, and we recommend it to all of our clients that have e-commerce. Shopify also has themes. We customize the front end on the sites that we design, but you can also use a theme, and the content management system is pretty similar. It's a combination of WordPress and of Squarespace. So you can upload a theme, and you can your design editing can be done in more of a drag and drop situation like this. But you can also manage your products and your inventory through Shopify interface similar to WordPress.
Yep. Yeah, Shopify, it's a little more expensive, but for a store, it's a really great starting point to get you up and running with a shop, selling stuff online. It handles like all the order processing is really good. You can do refunds, and you can do discounts, and the security is great. We always recommend using Shopify for e-commerce sites. So it's if you're looking to sell stuff online, we'd recommend getting started with them.
Yeah, so Shopify is like running a shop. So it's a lot of work to do. And if you're just looking for a portfolio website, we would recommend starting with Squarespace or with WordPress. We just wanted to share this as an option today. So Emma, we have a few minutes left. We wanted to go through these steps here. Do we have time to do that before we do Q&A?
Yeah, I think that that's an important part of the presentation to do. So please go ahead and do that, and then we'll hop into Q&A.
Okay, great.
Sure. So as we had talked about before, there's really two important elements when you're making a website. You need to have the domain, and you need to have hosting. I would recommend just going to GoDaddy.com and getting everything through them. They're really, it's all in one. It's pretty easy to use. We use it for all our domains, and it's pretty inexpensive too. So all you would do is go to GoDaddy.com, and we'll just do fresh. And then you search for the domain that you're looking for. And it looks like it's available, so we got it. Let's just select it. And you'll see here they try to offer you all these different extensions, like I had mentioned earlier. You don't have to get any of those. Sometimes people will get these and redirect them to their .com site, but I think most of the time you're going to be fine just getting the .com. So you would select that, continue to cart, and so they're going to keep asking you to add on a couple different things. So like making it private. This is not something that you need to do. It's basically hiding your personal information from or your business information from these domain search engines. It's not really anything that you have to worry about. I mean, you can get it if you want to, yeah, but it's not really necessary. And then they'll give you some of these other like website builders or
which we would not recommend.
Email address. We do not recommend using their products for that. Just say no thanks to all that and continue to cart. And then you can change the term to as long as, we usually do it 1 year at a time, but you can do it as long as 10 years. And then you just proceed to checkout, and then you've got your domain. Now, you can also get your hosting through GoDaddy, so I would just go directly to their web hosting, and here it is for $4 a month, so we'll just add that to the cart, and we'll just do it for 12 months. And then again, they're offering some other things. None of this is important. You can just continue. And it looks like you get a free domain with your order there. So, so this is everything that you'll need to get your website up and running. Now, I would recommend when you start setting up a website, do like the domain and the hosting and all that, get in contact with the support people from whatever, if you're using GoDaddy or Namecheap or something, I would get in touch with their support people and just confirm that everything is gonna, how everything's gonna work, and they'll just walk you through the whole process. They're really used to doing that. I still get in touch with them on websites just to make sure that I'm doing everything correctly, because all of these websites kind of do things a little bit differently. But if you just proceed to checkout, it should pretty much set it up for you. But again, I would contact them and make sure.
Awesome. So this process you would want to go through if you had a WordPress or a Shopify site. You'll need to purchase your own domain and hosting. If you
don't need hosting for Shopify.
Oh, okay.
Just WordPress.
Okay. So awesome. So this process you would only go through for WordPress.
Mm-hmm.
If you went with Squarespace, all of this is included, and so you wouldn't have to make these two separate purchases. If you are going to do a WordPress site, then you would buy your domain here, you would buy your hosting, then you would purchase your theme from Theme Forest, one of the themes that we showed you earlier today. And then, Robbie, do you want to walk them through how they would connect all of that?
Yeah, that's a little bit of there's like a little bit of a process to all that. But we'll send you some information after this call, and this is pretty much a walkthrough on exactly how to do just that. It's a one-click install of WordPress, and it just walks you through. It takes about 5 minutes to walk you through the whole process.
Cool. Awesome. So once you have WordPress installed and your domain and hosting set up, then you would set up your login, and you would basically have this as your back end, right?
Yep.
And what's cool about WordPress is there's a whole community out there that builds and develops on WordPress. And so there's tons of resources and tutorials on how to use it. So if there should be resources that come with the theme that you purchase, and there's often contact information for the people that made the theme that you're given, that you can shoot them an email, or they may have install theme set up with 24/7 support. So that's a great resource to use when you're setting this all up, and when you're also learning how to use that specific theme on WordPress, because every theme and every website uses all. So we're going to share some tutorials with you and some helpful links at the end of our talk today that you can check out in terms of how to set all this up and resources for. The last thing I just want to include before we wrap up is when you do set your site up, something that we would recommend using is Google Analytics. So Google Analytics is a free tracking software. Traffic tracking thing that you can hook up to your website that will give you a lot of great data on what pages are being visited, how many visitors you're getting a day, how long their session is, and it's really interesting to go through, and it can help you make decisions on your website. You may see that one project is getting a lot of attention, and maybe you just got some press on that. And so you know that getting more press or being featured in, the newspaper is going to help with your traffic. So you can make decisions on how you're marketing yourself based on your Google Analytics. And Google Analytics, I think you just sign up for it.
Yep,
and
100% free.
And is it pretty easy to hook up to your site?
Yep.
So they have a lot of directions on there, and Google has support as well. So that is everything that we want to share with you all today. Emma, do you want to open this up for questions?
Yeah, let's open it up. We have a couple of questions already, so I'll go ahead and start asking you guys those questions, and then if anyone else has lingering thoughts, please add them to the chat at the bottom of the screen. So our first question is from Danielle, and she asks, can pages be added with these themes? I think that she asked that during the WordPress section when you guys were discussing the WordPress themes.
Can you say that one more time, Emma? Can pages be added?
Yeah, so the question is, can pages be added with these themes? So I think that maybe that's touching on like how navigation works on the back end and how that's flexible.
Can pages be added with some themes?
Yeah. So the back end, what's up on the site right now, this is what the back end always looks like for WordPress. And so you can add as many pages as you want. So yeah, go ahead and demonstrate there. You would just click Add New Page and then enter some content. And then depending on what the theme looks like, that's how that page is going to be displayed on the front end.
And so in your theme, and this is really getting into a content management system training, that you'll have different templates that you can assign to that page. Oh, I'm sorry, it's right here, templates. So these are the different templates we have on our mesh site. And so in the next webinar that we will be teaching with the Tamarack Foundation, if you all decide you want a training on WordPress, this is something that we would go over in more detail.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. The next question is from Connie, and she says, I've been using Wix and have been happy with it. How do you think it compares with the host you recommend?
You've been using Wix?
Yes, Wix.
Wix. Yeah, Wix is another website builder. There's a bunch of different ones that you can use. I don't know too much about Wix personally. I have never used it, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure if it's working for you, then that's great.
Yeah, I agree. There are so many different things on the web, and we're just presenting 3 options today that we're familiar with and that we know work well and we can vouch for. So this is another option that everyone here could feel free to check out.
Yeah, definitely. And when you're checking out these options, I think it's important to just keep an eye on any sort of like hidden costs that may occur. So sometimes these companies will hook you in the beginning with a really cheap start, and then in future years will ask you for more money. So you just want to keep an eye on how much does it cost in the beginning, and then how much does it cost on an ongoing basis. So our next questions are, it's kind of a 2-parter. It's related to photography for the website from Nancy Louise and from Connie. So we have concerns over doing high-resolution, large photos of artwork on websites and how that work could potentially be taken and then reproduced by an outside party without permission. And then the next part to the question is a wish to place a watermark on the photo to help address that, and if you guys have recommendations for software that might be able to address that.
So you're getting into intellectual property rights. I think that this is more of a personal decision to make. All of our work is, you can see I just dragged it onto my desktop and now I have this image here. It's all repurposable, and we like that because we like when people want to share our work and use our images. We do want to be credited for it. I think that one way that people do that is, we don't have this and we could actually add it, but you can have a copyright at the bottom of your page that will protect you. And then if you see your image being used or shared, then you can contact that person and just ask them to credit your work for you. In terms of printing work, how do you explain, Robbie? Like, this could probably be printed at an 8.5 by 11, but you couldn't ever blow it up. So even when you're using a high-resolution image, when you put it into your content management system, it compresses the file. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to have like a high-resolution 20 by 24 printable piece.
Right. That's one of the features of WordPress is that it'll resize your images to make them a little bit smaller to make the page load a little bit faster, but it'll also keep the master file on there. But if somebody tried to, if you say you put like a 3,000 pixel image on your site, it would not be very easy to get a hold of, because it would display on your site maybe with the 600 width, and it would require some complicated programming to get that off.
Yeah, and if you are a two-dimensional artist and you do paintings or drawings and you're worried about that, I don't think it hurts if you want to have a watermark or your signature at the bottom right corner of your image, and that's something that you can do in Photoshop. But we don't do it with our work, and I think I like when the work is displayed without any kind of graphic on top of it. So I hope that answers your question. I think ultimately it's personal preference and whether or not you want your work to be shared online, but I don't think anybody would be able to print an image at a large scale. The largest printing format would be really an 8.5 by 11 to still maintain the quality.
Thanks for that feedback. And do you guys have any thoughts just in the immediate on maybe a free or low-cost option where you could add a watermark that you wouldn't be required to have Photoshop to do that?
I don't know of any offhand. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We can research that, and then we can follow up with a recommendation for something that would be free or low cost. Okay, we had another question about Wix, but we had addressed that. I see a few people are typing right now. We'll take maybe 3 more minutes for Q&A. If anyone has any lingering thoughts, please put them forward. I had a question about when you're creating the content for your website, how do you recommend that people keep track of all that content? Is it, do you want to start with a Word document, or do you want to drop everything into a spreadsheet, or do you just work directly in the content management system itself? What do you recommend?
That's a great question. I think if you want, you can work directly in the content management system, but I think it's great to have a separate document that is pulling together all of that information. So if you have a Word doc or a Google Doc, that's really great. If you want to have an Excel spreadsheet, if you have really minimal information, then that could help you keep track of your inventory as well. But an Outlook is a great format to basically that serves as an outline and writing. So you have a master document that you can just copy and paste into your content management system.
Okay, that sounds great. And I had seen some people typing and then they kind of faded off. So I'll just go ahead and ask one more quick question and we'll see if we get anyone else in here. Oh, wait a minute. Oh my gosh, you guys, I needed to scroll down. Please excuse me. Okay, so let me go ask the next question. Let's see. Do you guys?
About Etsy?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Please address that.
Okay, so Etsy is awesome. I think it's a really great platform to sell your work as a creative. I do think that it's important to still have your own portfolio site as well as an Etsy shop. So I think of Etsy kind of like I think of social media. Like you can have a Facebook page, you can have a Tumblr, you can have an Etsy account, but it's great to have your primary URL. So on Etsy, you will always be working with within the Etsy interface here, so you won't ever be able to customize that. And your URL will always be linked with Etsy. So it's great to have an Etsy page to use as a place to sell your work, but we would recommend having your main website here, or this is a good one. Where's the white? Having your portfolio website and then having a link to your Etsy shop here. I think that's the most professional way to do it, and use Etsy as the place that you're selling and part of your outlet for social media and outreach, but have it linked back to your main portfolio site. And that's really with any, there are a few other shopping platforms out there where you're selling on their platform. You're not creating your own website on their platform. And those are great tools to use for artists and designers and creatives, but I don't think they replace having your primary website.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Let's take just one more question before we wrap up. That question is from Brenda. She had asked about the importance of SEO on your website. How much weight should artists and creatives give to, optimizing their site for search engines?
Okay, so SEO stands for search engine optimization, and the way that we approach good SEO is by having dynamic content. So having good content on your site and well-written content will help with your SEO and the searchability of your website. But our tactic for moving your website up to be higher on Google with certain search terms is beyond developing good content, having good content on your site, is to use social media to push traffic to your site. And the more visitors that you have, the higher up that you are in search engines.
Yeah, Megan really nailed it. It's just good content is good SEO. So if you have something that a lot of people like and is helpful to people, and people are linking to it and sharing it, that increases your SEO, and you're going to get more traffic from Google that way. It flags you as a reliable resource of content.
Yeah, and that points to another good resource, which is a blog, to potentially have a blog on your website so that you can be posting new information to your site regularly. And posting that then to your social media accounts. And that we'll get into more of that into our next Tamarack Foundation unit, where we talk about digital marketing strategies. So I want to say, thanks. I want to say thank you so much to Megan and Robbie for joining us today and for sharing your expertise. And thank you to everyone who participated today. Please keep an eye on your inbox. We will be sending you that follow-up email. We'll be including links that we shared today. We'll also have a survey in that email so you can give us feedback and so that you can vote on the 2 website building platforms that you want us to follow up on. And we will also include a link to today's recording so that anyone who is having trouble accessing the presentation, or if you just want to watch this through again, you will be able to. So thanks again to everyone for being a part of this webinar, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day.
Awesome. Thank you, Emma.
Thank
you, Tamarack Foundation, and thank you, everybody, for participating today. Okay, bye.